there any more handouts that I'm missing? We'd like to say good evening to everyone and welcome you all to our city council meeting. Thank you for showing your cares and concerns for the city of Greensboro. As always, we'll get started with prayer. We'll ask that Councilman Neal will open us up with prayer on tonight.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this gathering. Continue to lead us and guide us and let us make wise decisions. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Brings us down to number 3 on our agenda. The approval of February 2023 regular session minutes. Council, I give you time to read over those minutes. Once you've read over, ask that you'll raise your right hand, signifying that you're ready to vote. All right, I entertain a motion and a second to approve the minutes.
Second.
It's been seconded. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Thank you so much. Next on our agenda is number 4, supervisor report from Freddie Evans. Mr. Evans.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council.
Good evening.
Basically, tonight report, same fix it, find and fix. We are in the season where it's starting to warm up in the city of Greensboro, and our aged infrastructure system is kind of getting more and more deteriorated. And so during this time of the year, when the weather starts to change, the ground starts to expand. And, you know, the basic water leaks you have is service lines to residents. We pray that no water mains or anything will be breached or compromised in any kind of way. But basically now we're just working on repairing water line, sewer lines, basically minor issues at this time. We don't have any major issues. The only thing that we have right now is trying to locate 2 valves on the water system that we're going to probably have to bring in a locator company because we can't find them. But it's not a major issue. And there's no threat to any of the residents of the city of Greensboro. We just need to locate them in case we do have an emergency, and we'll be able to centralize the water lines so we still supply the rest of the city. And basically, you know, that's the report. Any questions I would take.
Any questions for Mr. Evans? All right.
Water valves, that water valve. Well, we're gonna look at Georgia Rural Water to come in, and sometime their services are at no cost to the city. So that's gonna be our first course to take a look at is Georgia Rural Water. They'll come in and help you to do things if their availability is not in the immediate. Then we will look at you know, some different places, or either call other cities and see who they have to locate, and they have been very good. City of Union Point, the city of Watkinsville, the city of Eatonton. If we call and ask for assistance with an issue or to find something, they've been very good to respond to us. But we're going to first start with Georgia Rural Water.
So you say Georgia Rural Water?
Uh, we might have to pay them like some kind of travel fee or something like that, or if it's over more than one day, we might have to pay for lodging, but other than that, Georgia Rural Water haven't been charging us, if I can remember, because we're a member of that service. Yeah, we have membership in that service.
Yes, sir. Any more questions for Mr. Evans? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you all
Have a
very
great-
much. Have a good evening.
Good job, Freddie.
Brings us down to number 5, nomination for the Greene County Development Authority. Council, Mr. Vincent Lewis currently serves on this board, and if anyone else doesn't have a nominee, I would like to nominate Mr. Vincent Lewis to remain on the Greene County Development Authority as a representative of the city of Greensboro. Now I entertain a motion and a second to approve this.
Mr. Mayor, I nominate Mr. Lewis, Greene County Development Authority Board. Make a motion.
It's been second. All those in favor, let it be known by, is there any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Unanimous decision. Thank you so much. Brings us down to number 6, the resolution of the Greene County CID. City Attorney, do you have any new information for us regarding the CID on today?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, and we had a special called meeting on Friday on this same topic. Last week on Wednesday, our office was presented with the proposed local legislation that would institute a Greene County CID framework. It's our understanding, and what was said at the special called meeting, that our representative, Mr. Rhodes, would be able to pass this legislation, present this legislation with or without our approval. However, it is our understanding that Representative Rhodes did reach out to this body and the county for their approval before taking it to the Senate floor. Mr. Bacon, I think I did see him walk in, was a large driving force in the drafting of this bill. He also utilized services of an attorney that specializes in this area. I won't rehash too much of what the benefits of the CIDs are. I know we spoke at length about that on Friday. But just generally, it's a special tax district, raises additional ad valorem taxes that can be spent on certain infrastructure and improvement projects within that district alone. There have been CIDs passed, dozens throughout the state. And again, our office, in the short time we've had to work on this issue, have reviewed as many as we could. A lot of the acts are similar, are uniform. Again, very limited on what the projects we can work on. The projects are limited to that district. However, there is some flexibility in how they're drafted. Some of the biggest variation we found was in the composition of the governing body of the CID. Now, by default, it would be the governing authority of the district, of the land area where the CID is located. But in this legislation, as in many legislations, there's a creation of a board that after the CID's creation have virtual autonomy to set the written tax rate and decide the projects that are worked on. In the Greene County CID legislation, one of those board seats is chosen by essentially a popular vote by all the landowners. The people that own land in the CID would choose an appointee, a representative, and then 4 of the seats are chosen through what's called an equity elector. You get a seat per, the people that own the more valuable property have a additional votes to choose those 4 seats. Then, as the way this SID is written, if the land of the district included Greensboro property, Greensboro would appoint a representative, and the same would be for Greene County. Greene County, under this legislation, would be able to appoint a representative even when the entire SID land, the SID district, is within Greensboro. So every SID created in Greene County under this legislation would have a Greene County appointee. That makeup does change. It changes from SID to SID. So the numbers, the numbers of equity electors, the number of popular vote electors, that is all flexible. But under this SID, once this legislation is passed, every SID created in Greene County would be under this framework. Now, again, it was touched on Friday, but once this legislation is in effect, the city would still have to it's called in the legislation activate. You would still have to generate the actual district. And so there's a second step. Once the bill, let's say the bill is approved and then subsequently passed by the General Assembly, this council would have to take additional action to define the boundaries of this tax district, and that's when the board would be generated. The SID could begin operating. But again, whatever SID is generated would be governed based on the language of this local legislation that's being considered tonight. So, for instance, the makeup of the board. Once that legislation is in effect, the board is going to be made up as previously discussed. The subsequent action by the council creating the SID cannot amend that. That would have to be amended through additional legislation.
Can you repeat that one more time?
Sure. So again, it's a 2-step process.
Just the part about we would have to go back and.
Sure. So while the city council later, if the bill takes effect, the city council at a later point would have to act to define the boundaries of the SID and really put the SID into effect. However, how that SID is going to be run, how it's going to be operated, for instance, the makeup of the board and how the board is chosen, all those things are going to be set by the local legislation that is up for approval tonight. And so, for instance, if the number of board seats or how the board seats are chosen is something that cause concern for any of the council, we would not be able to amend that later on, but for going back to the legislature and amending the Greene County SID Act.
Mr. Mayor, can I stop and ask him a question?
Go ahead.
I'm totally confused with what you're saying now, because I asked a question on Friday after Mr. Lombard made the statement that trading Representative Rowe didn't need our approval to do this. If he didn't need our approval to do this, how can we go back later if, I think you just said, if it's something we want to amend in there, how we have a power to amend something that we didn't have a vote on?
Well, it would, so I thank you for your question. It's a two, it would be a request. So if there was something we wanted Representative Rhodes to amend, we would.
It'll be a
He wouldn't
request.
be
if he
obligated to
just
do
go and
so.
change, okay.
But to your point, Councilman, and I think we kind of touched on it Friday. Let's say that this bill is put into place with or without this body's approval. However, there's something that the majority of the council members are unsatisfied with. When the time were to come to have that second vote, to put a SID in place, this council might decide not to approve any SID. And so this bill would never be acted upon. There would never be a SID generated because this council wasn't happy with how the SID would be operated. And so, some observations and findings of our office. Again, this was something that came before this council externally. It was brought in to Representative Rhodes, and then your approval was asked for. But this council did not have an opportunity previously to speak to what you would like to see in SIDs in your municipality. A question was brought to our attention about the effect of a SID and the city's ability to annex or de-annex property. It is our understanding that it would not impact the city's ability to annex property, although that property, if it were under a SID, may still be subject to that tax. So the boundaries of the SID would not change, but for that land being annexed into the city. That was something that we had not been able to wholly confirm, but we believe that would be how the treatment of that situation. I will say that this legislation that's before you does not speak to what would happen. We just believe the law would lead to that treatment. And then there was a question or statements made on Friday regarding the county being mandated to have a board seat even when the boundaries of the SID were wholly within Greensboro. That again is a question we have not been able to confirm, and I will tell you that in reviewing local legislations for municipalities alone, the surrounding county does not get an automatic appointee. But under this legislation, again, to reiterate, Greene County, no matter what the boundaries of the SID were, would be entitled to a board seat. And so with that said, I'd be happy to answer any questions that the council may have. I know it's a a little bit of a convoluted process, and I know the council has not had much time to look at this legislation. We've been less than about 5 days since it first even came to our attention.
Hold on just a moment, Ms. Baker. One question, and you may have already answered this. Do the city set the boundaries of the city, or does the board set the boundaries?
The city.
The city, we would set.
The city, yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So what it would look like is when if again this legislation were passed, and the city would have the opportunity to create SIDs, there would be another resolution, another action that the council would take, and in that action, it would set the parameters of that SID. If it was including Greensboro property and Greene County property, then Greene County would have to do the same thing.
Is there any more questions coming from the council? No question. No, let him speak anyway.
So that, I hope that I will be helped to be clarified and not confused, because Mr. Nelson and Tom actually were able to communicate with my lawyer, our lawyer that we've hired. Our lawyer is the most authoritative lawyer in the state of Georgia. Tom, you tell me if I have anything that I state wrong here, because I was on a copy of the email with you. He's done over 30 CIDs, and that's counting now. See, this is where this is really kind of confusing. Trey did not have to have anybody to approve to get this legislation. It's like a marriage license. You go get your marriage license, but you still got to be married by an ordained. The county is the only one that can bring this legislation about. The city cannot. And once the county brings this legislation, any city, municipality within the county, any county, can then do their own CID. When this is approved, we went to Mr. Rhodes to be able to, we hired our lawyer, who is, as I said, done over 30 of these. He's done, you guys had question one on Covington and Newton County, I believe. Remember when y'all asked that question? Sure. And who did that one for Newton County and Covington? Our lawyer did, right?
That's right.
And there was a question that came up because he's really saying it's in void right now. That, it dissolves. If the county does not have the CID legislation, a city cannot collect CID, or the city, the land within that city can't have it. So what I'm trying to make sure we're not confused on, this legislation by the county only gives any city you want in Greene County to have a CID. And the CID is not necessarily where you as the city talk. I'm going to come in and request a CID, and we'll have new drafts of what a CID is within this legislation, which will be working with you guys to make sure we're in sync with what we want this CID to be, just like Cobb County is with Cumberland Mall area and the Battery and Tourist Park. That will be discussed between my lawyers and your lawyers in making sure what area we designate, okay? Because ultimately, in order to have a CID, you have to have 75% of the property owners to agree. We can't just go past the CID and make anybody be a part of it. They have a right to be part of it if they're requested, in which we will be doing. We'll request, but we have to have 75% of the property owners within what we're going to call the Oconee Town Center CID district, okay? But anybody that doesn't want to be part of it won't be part of it. And like we mentioned on Friday, this only applies to commercial property. There's no residential property. There's nobody that can be taxed. And to the point on the county and the city, the requirement of the state law is that the county has to bring the legislation before and be passed by the state. And once it's done, then any city can be part of it. They've got the license to. Then it doesn't have to go back to the state, doesn't have to go back to the county. It's just between Oconee Town Center and Greensboro. And while it's a minimum of 6 people, we actually are going to have 7 in our initial formation, which will be 1 representative from the county and 1 by the city, which is a standard, that's a state law, and then there'll be 5 from the property owner group. And the reason, and what I want to make sure everybody understands, is this is for the people. This is for the property owners to use this money and spend in their designated area. But as a for instance, as I mentioned on Friday, had we had this CID, and we won't have much money collected for many years, probably take 10 to 15 years to really get a significant amount of money. But if you had, and I don't want to scare people, Lord knows, I'm not saying there's going to be a 50-story office building built out there, but if it was, then that would be significant money. But if you have a significant shopping centers and things will be significant money. But in time, for instance, had we had that in place, and let's say we were collecting money for the past 15 years, then the water line that's being paid by the city and the Board of Education and people that's going out in Metacrest, I could contribute. I could take our property owners' money that we have built into this pot and help participate. We can also apply for federal grants and other grants around. So it's really, there's some articles that I sent for the benefit of some people, but these are benefited by counties in the city of Gainesville, Fulton County, Cobb County, Marietta. And so this is something that's really for the benefit of all of us, but particularly the property owners. But the main emphasis I want to know is that once this legislation is passed, it then gives us the right. I don't have that right, and the city doesn't have that right until the state passes a Greene County Act. And Greene County may not even ever have a CID as far as them in a county, and there may not be any other city. But I am doing this and anticipating that this Oconee Town Center is going to be a very significant development in this city, and we can use this where property owners can pay their taxes into the CID, additional tax, and be benefited by it. It'll be an expense for them in a tax purpose rather than donating money. They will actually be paying this money into the CID, but to their benefit, it will be used in their own backyard. So
Thank you, sir.
I hope that clarifies. I hope I hadn't confused anything, but I do want to emphasize that Lynn Rainey is the most, he's done more CIDs in the state of Georgia than anybody.
Thank you, Mr. Baker.
And I would just note that even Mr. Rainey, and I don't know if he had a hand in this, but there's appears to be a legislation in Atlanta for a municipal Atlanta CIDs that does not call for county representation. Now, the Greene County, this if any of the property were within Greene County, then certainly they would be entitled to representation under the Constitution. But I say there have been CID acts without county that do not mandate county representation. And I don't know if Mr. Rainey had a hand in this one.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
can I ask one more question to you, Mr. Baker? I just want to, I just like to know as much facts about things that I can. The statement wasn't made Friday, but you just made a statement earlier in your presentation that the legislature got to have an approval from the county first, right?
Well,
And
actually
then you
not
come into the,
from the state first.
right, and
So
then through the county,
It has to be a county act, yes, sir.
right.
County's the only one that can bring it.
And so I understand that on last Thursday morning, the county commissioner voted for it.
They passed a
Passed a
resolution.
resolution, right?
To just to get the act passed. I mean, they didn't have to, but Mr. Rhodes asked for it as he asked for the city, because he didn't want anybody thinking he was passing legislation that was going to be without anybody knowing. So the county is the one that did pass a resolution last Thursday in favor, but to keep in mind, again, that's just that's just the benefit to know that you could do a CID if you wanted one in this county. The city can't go and bring that legislation forward, only the county can. But once the county...
That's what I want to hear. See, the city can't do it.
That's right.
That's what you're
That's
saying.
exactly right. The city cannot go and do it only
Only the
after
county.
only after the county has passed it, and it's passed for not only the county, it's passed for every city in the county. Here's the other thing to make sure you know, is the fact that if you annex property that's already in the county, it comes into the city. If the county had a CID, it then would come into the city. It's wherever the property lies is where and the money that is collected is for the property owners, not, it can help the county and the cities if they want to, but it's up to the property owners. In other words, you're going to have a vote as a city and the county will have a vote, but there's 5 other votes there, and if the owners don't want to help you pay that water line to go out to the school, then they wouldn't do it. But on the other hand, if it benefited them, that's what they're going to try to do, because it gives them the jurisdiction of their own money and their taxes that they've paid in addition to the city tax and the county tax. This is a whole nother tax, but it's for the benefit of the owners. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Council, you've heard the information coming from our attorney as well as Mr. Baker. I entertain a motion to approve, deny, or either table this matter.
Motion to approve.
It's been second. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Unanimous decision. Thank you all so much. Next on our agenda is the memorandum of understanding for the comprehensive plan. Ms. Kell Hammond. A memorandum of agreement. I apologize.
Good evening, Council.
Good evening.
It's comprehensive plan time again, and I'm recommending as staff that we contract with the Northeast Georgia Regional Commission to help us develop the city's comprehensive plan. What you have before you tonight is a memorandum of agreement for those services, and it details out the scope of work. It has a tentative timeline for us and kind of talks about the process. This is something we're required to do. So typically the city has worked with the Regional Commission in the past, and I think that's a good path for us for this time as well.
Council, do you understand what Ms. Kell has presented? Any questions for Ms. Kell?
You say we use them in the past?
Yes, sir. I mean, there's other ways that you can, a city can produce a comprehensive plan, but typically working with the Regional Commission is going to be the most cost-effective manner, and that's what the city has done as long as I'm aware of. So,
Thank you.
right. And the comprehensive plan is a requirement for a lot of the different things that we participate in. I mean, there's a lot of grants that we have to have a comp plan on file for to even be eligible for. So not doing the comp plan really is not an option.
I entertain a motion to approve.
Motion approved.
Second.
It's been seconded. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Next is on our agenda is number 8, the first reading of the ordinance amending the regulations of the South Main Street Overlay District. City
Mayor and Council, many years ago, we started the overlay district, which is a lot like the CID in that it only applies to commercial. We had certain regulations to sort of give the city a distinctive look, at least along the corridors. But recently, the growth has been coming faster and faster, and we don't have time to make these board decisions sometimes when we're slowing down developers. So the mayor and I have asked that it go from being a board to being in the hands of the city building official who knows more about architecture than I do. And he can make administrative decisions on those, and the product is still going to be appealable to you if there's something about that the developer doesn't like about the decision that was made. So it really doesn't change anything, but it just speeds the process up.
Council, you heard the request of the city manager. I entertain it. Is there any questions for him?
I have one, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Manager, you said we need to give him the sole authorization to do that, authorized to do that? But
Yes,
he gonna bring it back. Before you
only,
are the
yeah, oh,
map
no,
one.
I'll be involved in it. But, the only time the council has to be involved is if the developer does not agree with the decisions that were made.
Okay. Okay.
Any further discussion? Any more questions?
This is the first reading, we're not voting on this tonight.
Yes, this is the first reading. All right, no more questions. We'll move on to number 9. Second reading of the short-term rental ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So again, this is on for the second reading. What this ordinance will do is put in the code provisions that allow for short-term rentals in residential zones and also regulate them. The regulation is going to involve limits on occupancy based on the number of bedrooms in the residence, system of registration, an application process, and short-term rental properties must have a written agreement with renters and a 24-hour local contact if there are issues. And so, again, this would allow the city more involvement with the short-term rental process and make it easier for the city to regulate.
Any questions for our city attorney? No questions? All right, I entertain a motion to approve, deny, or table this matter.
Motion to approve.
It's been seconded. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Thank you much. Brings us down to unfinished business. Number 10, unfinished business. I entertain a motion to approve, deny, or table the matter of purchasing the police vehicles.
Motion to approve purchase of the county vehicle.
It's been seconded. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Those that don't approve, let it be known by raising your right hand. Thank you. 3-2 vote. Brings us down, any more unfinished business? Councilman Moore, do you have any unfinished business?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I need probably 3 to 5 minutes in executive session for a personnel matter.
Executive.
That's all I have on unfinished.
One personnel.
Yes, sir.
City manager, do you have anything?
No, sir.
City attorney, do you have anything?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Miller,
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Councilwoman Rivers? No. Councilman Smith,
No, sir.
Councilman Neal?
No, sir.
All right, brings us down to number 11, new business. I don't have any new business. Councilman Moore, do you have anything?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
City manager,
No, sir.
city attorney,
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Miller,
Nothing, Mayor.
Councilwoman, Councilman Smith, Councilman Neal.
No, sir.
All right. Brings us down to number 12, public comments. Our public comments, speakers shall be limited to 2 minutes per speaker. Any public comments shall be limited to items that pertain and are relevant to the meeting agenda. Prior to being allowed to make public comments, a speaker must sign in with the city manager prior to the beginning of the city council meeting. Members of the public may not make inappropriate or offensive comments and are expected to comply with the rules of decorum. Comments that exceed the time limit, that are duplicative or are not relative to the agenda, may be ruled out of order, and an individual may be asked to discontinue commenting further at the time. An individual who violates the rules of decorum may be removed from the meeting at the direction of the mayor. At this moment, do you have a list of those that?
Yes, sir. Miss Lily Tripp and Miss Melanie Miller.
We apologize. We cannot allow that on tonight, Ms. Tripp. Ms. Melanie? Thank you so much. I entertain a motion now to enter into the executive session for one personnel matter.
Motion. Second.
It's been second. Sure, no further discussion. All those in favor, let it be known by raising your right hand. Thank you so much. If you all would just give us just a
Who
moment.
motioned it? Who seconded it?